What's up, guys? It's Barrett, and today I wanted to talk about a concept I like to call hand patterns. Basically, if you think about a groove, you can't always think about a groove as the bass drum and the snare drum kind of talking to each other, right? And that is really the best way to think about it. But on top of everything, you really have what I like to refer to as a hand pattern. So let's get into it. Let's talk about some different hand patterns. Well, you have 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. The more comfortable you get with this, the easier drumming gets. Because once you get comfortable with 1, 2, 3, 4, the sky's the limit. You can pretty much do anything on drums. You just have to learn how to get comfortable with your bass drum. When you first start out, a really good thing to do is just put on songs that you like that are not in too fast of a tempo. And if they are, I'll tell you what to do in a minute. Just go to town on 1, 2, 3, 4. Songs that are really good for this are like Believer by Imagine Dragons, Whatever It Takes, slower-ish kind of pace tunes where you can really concentrate on 1, 2, 3, 4. Then from there, you start moving the bass drum around. So bass drum should always go on 1 and 1. And you learn how to do different bass drum patterns like boom, boom. All right? Then learn how to move the bass drum around over time. But the goal is never mess up your hand pattern. See, my hand pattern stays the same all the time, no matter what my bass drum does. And the only rule of thumb is just don't put the bass drum and the snare drum on the same spot. And if you do, it's called 4 on the floor and it's a style. But otherwise, keep them apart from each other. And in reality, this is what drumming is all about. The more advanced you can get with keeping this hand pattern going on top while you do different stuff with the bass drum on bottom. Of course, it takes time. Now, if the song has a faster tempo, you just use the 2 hand pattern. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Same thing. You learn how to move the bass drum underneath. So you start out with 1 bass. And this is how I teach my beginners. This is usually the first groove I show them. Obviously not this tempo, but, this is about all you can do with this at first. Then when you get more fancy with it, keep this hand pattern going. And you can do this on different cymbals, obviously. Keep the hand pattern going on top like I'm doing here. And then try to move the bass drum around. So it's really a type of practice, how I'm keeping a hand pattern going, but I'm moving my bass drum around in different places. And I'm not going to put it on the same place as the snare. Boom, boom, boom. And this isn't easy to do, obviously, because your hand is going to want to copy the bass drum. It's called independence, right? But I'm just saying, this is a way to think about drumming. How I have the 4 hand pattern, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Move the bass around. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And the 2 hand pattern. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. Same thing for something called 6/8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Guess what? That's a hand pattern. That's what my hands are doing to create what's called the meter. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And meter is just a fancy way of telling the listener where you're trying to point their ear towards the strong pulses, right? Da, 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 za, da, da, za, da, da, ba, ba, ba. Now, in a standard way, your bass drum is always going to go on 1 no matter what meter you're playing in or what hand pattern you're using. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. But you get used to this hand pattern and learn to move the bass drum around. Boom, boom, boom. So the name of the game is just don't change your hand pattern once you get it going. And you've literally learned almost 3 different styles of music at that point because you're playing in 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. You're playing in 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And you're playing in 6/8. 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. This also works with different styles. Like in jazz, this is your hand pattern. Ting, chink-a-ting, 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 chink-a-ting. That's a hand pattern. And then you learn to, do different stuff underneath. At first, you just feather the bass. Now, we're not going to talk about comping in this video, but this is the sort of the foundation of what you're trying to do in jazz right here. All right. And then, of course, it's kind of like the opposite of what we've been talking about, how we've been keeping a foundation and then adding the bass in different spots. In this case, you would keep this foundation and add the snare drum in different spots. So in different styles, things kind of change, right? It's the same thing with a shuffle. Tink-a-chink, a tink-a-chink. Whether you're talking about sort of this more country two-step shuffle, or whether you're talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, half time. All right? Halftime shuffle, and you just learn to move the bass drum underneath. I hate to say it, but this is really how drumming works at the end of the day. You have a hand pattern on top that you get comfortable with, whether it's 4, 2, 6, 8, shuffle, whatever. And of course, shuffle is part of a style, right? A stylistic approach. But then you just move the bass drum around in different spots. Always keep it on 1 at first, because that's standard, right? But then once you get used to where 1 is, then just start moving it around. Now it's going to take time before you can do lots of different variations, right? But this is a way to practice, thinking about your hand pattern on top and moving your bass drum on the bottom. Thanks for watching. This isn't the only way to think about groove and how groove really works, but it is a good way to kind of think about it if you want to, as far as a hand pattern on top and then moving your bass drum around on bottom. But it is important to remember that it's not separate. Everything is still one thing at the end of the day. You're still creating one idea. And the more fancy you get, the more fancy your hand pattern becomes, like ting, chicka ting, ticka ching, ticka ching, ticka ting, pop, 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 pop. See, that's just a hand pattern. I can't talk and play that at the same time, but that's still just a hand pattern, even though there's polyrhythms going on there. I mean, that was a clave with a bell kind of pattern there. Latin, right? So thanks for watching, guys. I'm Barrett, and I'll catch you on the next one, all right?